Hello, folks. And been a while since I've been here on YouTube, and a lot of things have been transpiring since the last time I checked in. Uh, let's see, I'm going to wait for folks to start showing up a little bit, and then we're going to get into what's going on. So, yep, we are going to wait just a little bit. Just want to make sure that I am being heard. Am I being heard? Someone let me know. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. We're just waiting for a few more folks to show up, and yeah, we're going to get into this really interesting stuff going on in our land today. I tell you, uh, man, you would think that most people don't know none that got that mixed up, but we'll straighten it out. We'll straighten it out. Anyway, folks, I'll just give it a few more minutes. I know because it's been a while, a long time since I've been here live, and been real busy though, building the radio broadcast and doing some other stuff, business wise. Got to keep the lights on, but we are still waiting. Yep, yep. We are still waiting. Anyway, we're just going to go ahead and get started. And I'm I was looking at the news. I was just looking at the news today. And hello, folks. Just let me know if you're there and if you're hearing me okay, if it's loud and clear, and all of that stuff. But you know something? I was very perturbed today. I was looking at the news, and there was a 61-year-old lady in Harlem getting the crap beaten out of her by four black females. And this big fat young guy there was with him. He didn't stop it. He just helped out, I guess, in beating this woman. She's now in stable condition. And you know how they're always talking about police brutality, right? And those kinds of things. But here's the deal: police brutality is very rare. Hello, Jacqueline. Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. And thank you. The thing is, it's a shame on them. You're right, Jacqueline. But here's the thing: they continue to dance around the real issue. I was watching Fox, I was watching One American News, I was watching, just looking around just to see what people would be saying about this. And they were saying they need more gun control. They were saying they need to do all kinds of programs or whatever. And the police chief in Washington, D.C., he was saying some good things. He was saying that, the police have to be allowed to not only arrest people, but the thing is that these criminals, they do what they do. And in 2 or 3 weeks, even the murderers are back out on the streets. So criminals think, well, we're not going to get punished. We can do whatever the heck we want to do. So who can blame criminals if that's what they're doing, right? But here's the thing: I listened to everyone from Tucker Carlson last night. I mean, you name them, I was listening to them because I was trying to figure out, are they going to hone in on the one element that is missing in our country? They're no longer focusing on and teaching about morality. They're not teaching about morality. And it's even in the church. You don't hear the Ten Commandments taught anymore about right and wrong. You don't hear about parents teaching their children right from wrong anymore. And right and wrong is not all is basically not even allowed to be taught or discussed in government schools. Because now in some circles, if you bring up, hey, you shouldn't be a thug, you should clamp down on criminals, you know what? You're called a bigot. People like that are allowed to have the biggest say so in society. You have preachers running around here. I won't name any names because you probably know who they are. You have one particular preacher running around saying, you should take the shot because Jesus would take the shot. If I were to say his name, I promise you, you would know who it is. And so, because as a fellow Christian, I can't just name names like that. It should be dealt with within the body. But in that church, they never teach about the Ten Commandments. They don't teach about basic right and wrong. And as long as we continue to allow that madness, as long as we continue to no longer teach about what's right and wrong, you can expect more of the same. So, no longer do the criminals fear for their lives. Washington, D.C. police chief was talking about, well, we've got to have more gun control. Well, gun control on who? Because the law abiding citizens who own the majority of guns in this country, we're not running around here doing these criminal activities. Every time you have these kinds of acts, what happens? The Democrats go to Nutsville and they want to grab more of our guns. They want to come after us. We're not the problem. Well, maybe we're the problem to them, but we are not the problem. We have to reconfigure how we deal with criminal activity in this country. Stop going after the police and start going after criminals. I'm going to share a funny story with you. True story. I was confronted with a situation in Cleveland where I grew up. I was away at school, but I would come home in the summers. And in one particular year, this criminal, this guy, he just wouldn't let up. He had been shot by a store owner. He had gone to prison. He had done all kinds of stuff, right? But he had always gotten a light sentence, so that's why he was back out. This guy was so terrible that he had his own sister raped so that he and his drug partners could sell her jewelry. He knew where the jewelry was. This is how dirty this guy was. So one day, even though I wasn't home for the summer, I wasn't staying at my mom's, but I would go and visit her at some point every day. And a lot of times I'd go in the evening because I knew she would be up reading. So one evening I happened to go over there, right? I walk up the driveway and I walk very quietly, especially at night. And lo and behold, there's this guy in the side door it was in the screen, but working on getting into the big door. And so I get his attention. He turns around and I realize, oh, wow, this is that guy, that criminal that everyone was talking about. So immediately he and I start dancing. And I don't mean pirouettes. And so we're going at it. And a gun dropped out of his coat. He had on a long coat and the gun dropped out. So I really went crazy then. And I just had decided, well, it might be better if I just take him out. No one else knows how to deal with this guy, but I know one thing for sure, that if you eliminate the problem, it's no longer there. But my next door neighbor, she heard him screaming. She comes out and she turns on the hose and turns it in my face. So I have to let go. But by that time, he was still very severely injured. He had to go to hospital. He was in hospital. Next thing you know, his family is trying to sue my mom because they think I live there. They don't know my business and all that. And I had a good lawyer and everything like that. It was dealt with one phone call. But the fact that they had the nerve to try. And of course, the police came and everything. There was a report and everything. And they knew him. He had a record a mile long. And they told me themselves, look, Ron, you would have been better off. And we would be better off. We wouldn't have to be dealing with all this paperwork again had you dragged him inside and finished the job. Because they had dealt with this guy over and over and over again. But guess what? To this very day, whenever I talk to certain friends in back home, you know what they tell me? He's back out of the hospital and everything. He's been fully recovered. This was because this happened years ago. But they said, you know what? After you had your situation with him, You dealt with him so effectively, he never committed another criminal activity again. And the moral of the story is that, ladies and gentlemen, we have to deal more effectively in society with the criminal element and stop allowing our government officials and other leftist individuals like BLM to go after the police. The police are under a heck of a strain in a heck of a situation. And the majority of them, 99% of them, are great folks who are out there to protect us. They're not paid that well. And we all know this. This is an old story, right? But the fact of the matter is, if we want to recover our cities, we have to make sure that the criminal element knows that we're stronger than them. We will do what is necessary to protect our families, our property, and whatever. We have property rights. We have unalienable rights as individuals. God gave us that. God gave us the right and the ability to protect ourselves. We are not obligated to be victims of government. We are not obligated to be victims of criminals. You know, Washington, D.C. government officials should not have ever been allowed to forbid law-making citizens from owning firearms. Same thing for Chicago. You got, Lightfoot, that mayor there. What a disgrace. And city after city after city. But you know what a bigger disgrace is to go along with that? I'm talking about the people who know better, people that run these churches in these communities. If you go to most of these communities, whether it's Harlem, Chicago, the east side of Cleveland, wherever, you have a bunch of churches, right? And what are the conditions you find around those churches? Insanely downtrodden conditions in many instances, not all, but in many cases, right? So what are we doing here? What are the preachers telling the people? And why is it that the young people don't want to go there? I'll tell you why. Because there's been too much hypocritical expounding every Sunday and every Wednesday night at Bible study. Okay? And it's ineffective. If you're not teaching what is right, and you're not setting the example yourself, if you're an individual, a preacher in Dallas who's telling people, well, you should come here and get your shot, and he even had Dr. Fauci at his church telling people Jesus would take the shot. I can't get off of that. That is just an insult. I mean, talking about insulting the intelligence of the people. How wicked is that? And so, what is that? I'm going to read something. Jacqueline D. Chicago has been allowing children shot every weekend for 20 years. Not one media report on it. Wonder if Franklin Graham said Jesus would take the vaccine. He's the individual who said that. Yep. You said it. I didn't, but that's the truth. And it's public knowledge. It's knowledge. It's public. AZ, how are you? But we have to stand up as Christians. We've got to start using our brains. We've got to start using all of the elements that God gave us. It's not just about going to church and, getting slap happy. Then you get out and it's been ineffective. It's been so ineffective and a waste of time. And more young people don't want to go to church. And frankly, I don't blame them. I don't go either. But I do learn, we have other ways of learning the word from good teachers, great teachers. And how about studying yourself to show yourself approved? And so, my friends, I just want to encourage you to encourage others to stand for what is right. Because, in fact, I was talking about this on my radio broadcast, which comes on at 3 p.m. Eastern time every day. You can catch it worldwide on Spreaker. And on the weekends, I'll talk about in a few minutes, you can catch it on radio stations around the country as well. But my friends, we have to be more bold in standing up to big government because they want to force us to take these vaccinations, these shots. They're not even technically, if you look at the CDC definition of these things, they're not technically, they're not vaccinations. They do not prevent anything. They maybe they prevent you from healing. Maybe that's the deal. And here's another fact. In Great Britain, 40% of the people who have been shot, guess what? They have contracted the corona China virus. Now, that is a higher percentage than that amongst people who have never been vaccinated. Get a load of that. But yet, they want to force you here in the United States to take this thing, to get shot, and they're telling you, well, it'll prevent you from getting sick. You'll be fine. No, you won't. And the truth of the matter is, my friends, we have to make these government officials understand that we know what's going on, that we understand our rights and our liberties. And they can't take them away from us. Men have to be more like men in our communities. We cannot allow ourselves anymore to be bullied by this feminism throughout the United States. What do they call it now? Toxic masculinity. Because they want to rid the country of strong male leadership. And they're also working against females as well. They're doing things. You remember and I might have talked to you all about this before. Remember the feminist movement and how they would always say that they were as strong as any man, that they could do the same things that any man could do. And I remember angrily telling a few people who believed all that. I said, you know what? There's going to come a time, I don't know when nor how, but I would tell them there's going to come a time where you all are going to have to prove it. You all are going to be forced to prove that you all are as strong as men and can do everything that a man can do. So here we are. Now we have men, because in a society where manhood is frowned upon, you have the weaker men amongst us. I don't know why they go this crazy because of the push against manhood. They should be pushing back like I do. Here they go. They're running around saying, well, I'm a tranny now and I'm going to be a girl. So they decide to pretend to be a girl and go into girls' athletics. And guess what happens? They win all the races, all the wrestling matches, and they're the weaker of the men. They're the weaker guys who are beating the crap out of all these females who have been saying for years, well, we're just as strong as a man. And what's sad about that is that women have been convinced that their position is less than, that motherhood is less than. Well, Abraham Lincoln fully understood that the hand that rocks the cradle shapes the nation. And we have forgotten the importance of motherhood. See, when you have great mothers, you have a great nation. When you have a great mothers, you have fewer criminal activities in the streets because the mothers give those young men who don't have love in their hearts because they're not given love at home. When a guy is shown that as a little boy growing up, he is less likely to be a thug in the streets, hating on people and acting out in a certain manner. And at the same time, what really puts the icing on the cake, if he has a strong father that also shows leadership and what it means to be the caretaker of the home, the breadwinner, all the things that God says that us men should be doing. Both positions are equal in importance, mothers and fathers. But we've allowed in society the leftist elements to convince, well, if you're a mother, that's not as important. You're not fulfilling yourself. Well, excuse me. Motherhood is a big deal. And we have to make sure that we don't allow our society to forget that. And at the same token, fatherhood is a big deal. And we have to get the fathers back in the home. Because, as my dad used to tell me when I was a little boy, Ron, a nation is only as strong as her families. If you want a strong America, strengthen your families, because that's where it begins. And that's where it will end if we do not turn this puppy around, if we don't turn our families around. I, One of the things that I so admired when we were in Florida recently, and our Cuban friends were there, and you could just see the family love, the closeness, and I mean, the grandchildren, the children, everyone liked each other, everyone loved each other, disagreements or not. There was that respect, and they were talking business ideas and things of that nature, just upwardly mobile, common sense a lifestyle and thinking patterns under the grace of God. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord, if this could be duplicated all over this country, boom. So many of our problems that we deal with, whether it's crime in the streets, whether it's transgenderism, whether it's other unnatural sexual practicing activities that are so prevalent today, thievery, you just name it. You strengthen your family and you strengthen your nation. Yep, Diane, you're right. Hard to believe Fauci knows Jesus. Perhaps he does, but he keeps it well hidden. Absolutely true. Oh, man. Thank you, Bonnie. God bless you too. And God bless you all. But I just pray that we in the United States of America get it before it's too late. You know, we're getting to that point where it's not over the cliff, but it's like dangling. We're dangling on the cliff. And if we don't hurry up and make some drastic changes very quickly, our nation, she won't be great anymore. And she won't be in that position to be a blessing to the world. You know, United States, her, I believe, you know, a lot of people don't believe this today, but I believe personally that the United States was supposed to be the nation that not only sets the example for liberty in the world, but also is supposed to be the number one um, spreader of the gospel throughout the world. Those two things, liberty and the good news throughout the world. And the founding fathers used to warn us. Frederick Douglass warned us. Other great Americans warned us in their own special way that if America ever gave up her morality, she would lose her greatness. Like I said, Frederick Douglass said that. George Washington said it, and many people. Yeah, you're right, Jack. Well, and sadly, you're right. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah in many aspects. The truth is, we know better, and we're supposed to be the light in the earth. We who know the truth, we who love God, we who appreciate this country, we got to be more bold. We have to be more bold. We still have the freedom to be bold, but the time is getting short. I really believe that within the next 12 months, we have become very active, and we have to en masse tell this administration and tell others that we are not going to participate. Remember Nancy Reagan during the campaign against drugs, she said, just say no. And if you're not participating, the programs, the things that they want to do, they don't exist. They can't work. And you're right. Again, Jacqueline, common law. Absolutely. You must have done a lot of reading in your time. But yes, common law. It's common sense. And so, my friends, I just want to encourage you more and more and more, as much as I can, encourage you to be more bold. The other side is bold, so we might as well be bold with the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And the more bold we are, the more often we are bold. Like now, they want to lock our lips up again with masks, with face diapers. Well, I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do it. They harm you. And when I see these pictures, I was looking at some news today, how they're going to have all the students going to school with masks. Well, the corona China virus is not spread very much amongst the very young. And they are the ones, if they get it, they get over it the quickest. And there is a higher recovery rate from the corona China virus than from the common flu that plagues us every year as well. So we have to arm ourselves with these common sense facts and stand accordingly and let the government know that no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. We're not going to participate. And we have to be willing to, let's say, if they say, well, you can't fly if you don't take a shot. Well, okay. Which means they're pretty stupid, right? Because if no one is flying, they're not doing the number one thing they want to do, and that is making money. Remember when in the night, I think it was the 1950s, when they had a bus boycott in the South, when Rosa Parks said no. And she was not the first one to do that, by the way. There was a man who did that a few years before her. But because he was a man, blah, 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 they didn't pay him any attention. But when Rosa Parks did it, that's when they decided for the bus boycott. And yes, there were some hardships. Some people got beat up and brute battle, beat in the streets and bitten by dogs, but they didn't give up. And guess what? Because they stood in mass and they said, well, none of us will ride then. If none of us can ride in any open seat on the bus, then none of us will ride the bus at all. And it broke the back of the bus system financially, and they had to relent. So this is what we have to do today. So what if it's inconvenient? The truth is, if we do not buckle down and do these things now and go through the inconveniences now, if, let's say, a year from now, we allow this to just keep going and them continuing to tighten the noose around our necks, guess what happens? We lose our jobs, our businesses anyway, because when socialists take full control, they kill economic activity anyway. So I would tell you to fight now while we still have a good economic base to deal with, while we still have the basic structure. And don't wait until we get to the point like they were in Venezuela, or still are. It's only getting worse. I mean, it's so bad in Venezuela, I think they've run out of rats to find to eat. And don't think it cannot happen here. In past generations, what is going on now? If you were to tell them the conditions that would be prevalent in our nation right now, they would tell you, no, this will never happen in our country. No way, Jose. They'd say you're crazy. And unfortunately, at that time, yeah, you would have been crazy. But if you know trends, if you know history repeats itself, doesn't it? If such and such is done or not done, there's a pattern. So, as many times as communism has failed throughout the planet, wherever it has been applied, life has always gotten much worse. So it would behoove us to say this time no, because this is what it's all about. Yeah, Jacqueline, you're right. Common law is our law of the land. Yep, not admiralty law. Yeah. So we have some smart folks here. And here's the deal, folks. The number one thing here, we can't give up. Once we start standing up in mass, we cannot turn around and sit down and take a break. Right now, in the state of Mississippi, finally they got a hearing with the Supreme Court. And this could be, if it rules in our favor, it could be a big chip against Roe versus Wade. But the Mississippians had to be bold and say, forget it. There's nothing that beats a no but a try. I think that's the old saying. but a good try or something like that. But if you don't try, if you don't stand up, it's guaranteed that you lose. And that the other side just gets their way and they just put the screws to you until it's screwed out, till your lives are screwed out like they are in Venezuela and Cuba. Cuba. Who knows what's going on there? Well, many of us do know what's going on. They're doing horrible things. Why? Because they know they can get away with it. As I told our friends from Cuba who are living in Florida now, I wish you guys had done this a year and a half ago. This would have been such a major firestorm with the previous administration, with Donald Trump. He would have made a big effort. Sorry about that. He would have made a huge effort to help the people of Cuba with sanctions, with all kinds of things. And our military would have been in a stronger position and a more strategic position to do whatever is necessary. Now you have an administration with Biden, who himself is a longtime communist since 1972. Most people don't know that. You hear him portrayed even on Fox News as a moderate. That man has never been a moderate. He was just fooling everyone. In 1972, when he was elected to the Senate, he was approached by a communist organization out of Europe and has been paid handsomely ever since. That is why with every missile treaty negotiation with Russia, if you notice, with the exception when Ronald Reagan got in and said, you know what, screw it, niet. But until Ronald Reagan got in there, every treaty negotiation with Russia, we always came out at a slight disadvantage. And one of the main forces for that effort was Joe Biden, because he's highly paid. He's been a traitor for a long time, many years before he became a highly paid Chinese concubine. So the enemy, thanks to Joe Biden and many others, is our government, the enemy from within. The government. It's not even ours anymore. It's the government. So we're in a heck of a situation. Hey, Doug. So it's very, 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 it's sad, it's maddening, but at the same time, I'm invigorated. I'm invigorated because every time you see a fight, it's 50-50 chance of winning or losing. But it's 100% chance of losing if you're not willing to fight against those who are out to destroy you, your family, your property, your rights, and those who are trying to snuff God out of our society. That's the other reason why they're going after manhood so fervently. They want to turn everyone into a freakazoid. They want to turn people into a blended version. You know, God only made two, male and female, man and woman. That's it. And now you have 57 varieties, a freak show brought to you by mankind. Well, that's not the way it's supposed to go, folks. See, we should be pushing back against that too. And parents, thank God for the small number of parents around the country who are pushing against this critical race theory. How dare these dunderheads tell every white little student, well, because you're white, you're a racist. And most of them don't even know what a racist is. You think someone in second grade really knows what a racist is? And then to tell blacks, you're a victim because your skin is dark. You're a victim. Tell that to Frederick Douglass. Had they tried to tell Frederick Douglass something like that after he freed himself long before Lincoln said you can go, he would have slapped him into tomorrow, and rightfully so. Because the first step toward freedom, even today, begins with your own personal belief. Do you believe you're a victim? Do you believe you are a victor, especially a victor in Christ? It's up to you. And I'll tell you this. I believe that God does not like wimpus Americanus apologeticus folks. He would rather that you be cold or hot, but not some mealy-mouthed, middle of the road, boring milquetoast individual. No way, Jose. Remember Saul, the story of Saul? He was cold against God. He thought he was fighting for God, but he was cold. But God respected him and made sure he got on his side, and he became Paul because he was vigorously fighting. He was trying to do something. But then you have these knuckleheads that want to run around here that just want to promote lies. They want to promote Bold Capital S where they hit every single Sunday and every Wednesday. And guys, this is something to the men. Let's get away from emotionalism. Don't get trapped into that realm of emotionalism, especially with another man. Let's respect each other more as men. Let's not appease the feminazis of the world and dog each other out as men. Men need to get together in this country and build this country, rebuild this country. We need to refound this great nation and rebuild her into what God wants her to be to fulfill her purpose. As great as the United States has been, believe it or not, she has not fulfilled her purpose. As great as she has been, she's been really great. Whether the Black Lives Matter or the Antifa folks want you to believe it or not. I was encouraged the other day, though. The other day, there was a group of Black citizens in Oakland, California, and they were outside. They were saying, look, we want the police. The city got rid of the police, or too many of the police, and crime is skyrocketing, and we want the police back. And you know what happened? All of a sudden, a group of white liberal Antifa folks showed up and tried to tell those Black people they didn't know what they wanted, that they were victims and that they should not want the police. But what encouraged me was when those Black folks turned around and told those white leftists to leave, that they didn't know what they were talking about, or if they did know what they were talking about, they were wrong, and that they want the police. And how dare they come there? And then they want to turn around and say, well, you don't need the police, but you're a victim. Well, they were victimized by greater crime levels because the police were taken out. So we see, it just bothers me how leftists seek to kill, steal, and destroy people. You know, Democrats can no longer go out and lynch Blacks in trees, but they sure made sure that they took control of the government school systems and intellectually lynched not only Blacks, but everyone. Because people of the left are about oppression. They want to boss us around. They want to tell us what to do. They want to mold us they want us in their image, in their unholy image. But I'm here to tell you, my friends, it does not have to be that way. We don't, just like those Black folks in Oakland, California told those white leftists where to go, to leave them alone, because all they want is to have the police back. And they want truth. And they don't want any liberals to come and tell them, oh, you're victims. Oh, but you don't need the police. How retarded is that? So they're basically saying, you know something, we want you to still get beat up and robbed and pillaged by the criminals. And we don't want you to be able to protect yourselves, which you cannot in California. Gun laws are very restrictive. And so you can't protect yourself, and you don't need the thin blue line either. And you're a victim. So those folks were smart, and they were correct when they told those Antifa folks to get the heck out of their area. And this is what we need to do. Those of us who know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, need to stand up to those who are spreading lies. And parents, if you can, do not put your children in government school this coming September. And I understand most of you will say, well, I got to go to work. I got to do this. As I said a few minutes ago, if the leftists have their way, within the next year or two, you won't have a job or a company to go to anyway, and you won't even have the ability to start your own enterprise. This is what it's all about. While we're focusing on Apple and all these other big corporations, because we don't like what they've done, and I don't like what they've done either, what we should be focusing for is a land of equal opportunity and a prosperous economy so that anyone can start their own business enterprise. I'm more concerned about having my own than forcing me to involve myself in companies and corporations that really don't like me anyway. And I'm not talking about as a racial thing. I'm talking about as an American, as an individual, because Google and Microsoft and all these companies, it's not about race. It's about control. It's about eliminating your inalienable rights. And they're working with the government. The government cannot, based on the Constitution, come and do some of the things as far as your freedom of speech. But they're getting the private sector, leftist run corporations, to inhibit or limit our freedom of speech. And so the best way to overcome that is to what? Have a prosperous economy and build our own. See, Frederick Douglass understood that stuff. Booker T. Washington understood that. George Washington Carver understood that. Malcolm X understood that. I don't like the Islamic aspects of Malcolm X, but before they killed him, I believe had they not killed Malcolm X, I believe eventually he probably would have left Islam, because it was his Islamic or Muslim folks, along with the FBI, that killed him because he was seeking truth and he was changing. He was speaking out against the Democrat Party. He was speaking out against socialism. He was speaking out about the Black community hurting itself more so than the white community was hurting Blacks even at that time. And so they just could not handle the truth that was coming out. So you've got Joe Biden in disguise. Doug Cushing, he says Biden's disguise is whatever is on his card that he has that he reads. Yeah, that's it. But that's not all. So he still knows what he wants to do, and he's doing what he wants to do, even with I don't know, with only 1/4 of his brain left. And that's a doggone shame when you consider that someone with their 1/4 of their brain left was allowed to occupy, to take the place of a man who was a genius. Yep, Donald Trump is in many areas a genius. And he had very great ideas for this country that reflected our Constitution. Was he perfect? No. And it's so funny. About 27% of Christians did not vote for Trump. Why? Because they didn't like the fact that Trump, some of the things he said. Well, when I look at some of the things that Kamala Honorback Harris has said, Joe, 1/4 of his brain left Biden, has said, oh, things that Way Out Maxine Waters, or Way Out Waters has said, things that Gavin Newsom has said, which are much worse than anything Trump has said, especially in the political realm or dealing with economics and things of that nature. But yet they don't like Trump. Those Christians did not like Trump. Also, they never forgave him because when he was younger, he was a playboy. And many of those ministers, I think they were just jealous, to be honest with you. And they never got over it. You know, Trump's gotten over it. He's married a beautiful lady, and he's still living a good life, even though he's not in the White House, whatever. And who knows what may happen in the not too distant future. Who knows? But one thing that I do know is that, my friends, you know why we, the people, are the largest letters in the Constitution? Because we, the people, are the boss. After God, it's we who are supposed to be the boss. We gave up our authority. We gave up our authority when they, in the 1930s, started calling this a democracy, mobocracy. because they stop recognizing the importance of the individual. God first recognizes the importance of the individual. And that's what the founding fathers wrote into our Constitutional Bill of Rights, the importance of the individual, meaning you as an individual, no matter who you are, is important as a million people, and vice versa. And so we have to get back to that concept, meaning just like that's why Jesus, he had 99 sheep and one, 100 sheep, one got away. He left the 99 to get the one. And so we must never forget the importance of one. Each and every one of you are as important as the next. And see, as long as we allow the Democrats and the other leftists to mob us, try to mob us, one size fits all. You shall all get a shot. You shall all learn the same corrupt things in government school, blah, 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 blah. That's why we've got to get rid of the Department of Education. That should have never been developed. Got to get rid of it, folks. Got to get rid of it. Education should be localized. Different regions of the nation have different focuses. Now, America, when she was the manufacturing floor of the world, you had Cleveland, Detroit, Pittsburgh, those three cities. Between them, manufactured the majority of the steel in the world, the majority of the automobiles in the world, and other mechanical parts and things of that nature. That was it. Talk about a manufacturing trilogy. We also, at one time in the San Fernando Valley of California, that was at one time called the salad bowl of the world. Guess what it is now? It's a dust bowl. Why? Because Gavin Newsom, and it probably began with the governor before him, they divert the water away, the fresh water from the mountains back to the ocean. And rather than letting it flow through California so that to irrigate the farmers' land and keep that San Fernando Valley going, they allowed it to turn into a dust bowl filled with illegal border crossers that live in the San Fernando Valley now in shanty towns. This is what happens when we have corrupt politicians and an inept or a population that does not pay attention to what's going on. It's that we, the people, we are responsible. We're supposed to look around and see what's happening. And we're supposed to get into the grill of those who are trying to screw us over. Because it's not about just us. It's about what kind of a nation do you want to leave behind to your children and your children's children? Do you want to face God in the future knowing that you did not help leave a better situation for those you left behind? That you, because of the negligence, the religiosity, the religious spirit, you just didn't care. You were just waiting for that flyaway doctrine to kick in. Maybe, oh man, maybe we'll get raptured away. Ooh. And so people use that as an excuse not to care. I've seen it, man. I've seen it, and it has bothered me since I was a little boy. I'm thinking, wait a minute. If these people are thinking about flying away, why do they tell me that I should go to school? Why should I care? I should just get my Samsonite, pack it up. That was the big luggage when I was a little boy. Get my Samsonite together and, hey, sit on it and wait. No, he said to occupy till I come. Occupy means a lot of stuff. Okay, we're occupiers. We're conquerors. In him, we are conquerors, more than conquerors. And we conquer in many ways by how we teach our children. We conquer how we vote. We conquer by how we do or do not stand up in society. Are you going to be Wimpus Americanus Apologeticus, or are you going to be a strong man or woman of Christ who happens to be a great American as well? So, let's see here. Reefer Man, 69, corruption taking advantage of the meek. Just like you said, people did not vote for Trump to their detriment because of mob pressure. That too, mob pressure was also, well, and that I don't understand. How can there be mob pressure if no one goes to the voting booth with you? Voting booth. I mean, You go in there, you're by yourself. I mean, if you're afraid, if you're a little chicken, you go in, you vote for Trump, walk out and say, "Yeah, I voted for that other guy." Sometimes, you know, it's okay to be like that if you're a little scared, but still do the right thing. Good Lord. So I just want to encourage everyone to be strong, to not give in, to not give up. Also, um, yeah, you're right, Doug. The vote by mail thing, that is just such a big ripoff. And you also remind me of something else that's very important, concerning, because we're going to be voting in the right voting cycle is going to be coming up next year. Here we go again, the midterms. When you hear these white liberals run around talking about, well, it's racist to require black people. It's racist to, their eyes are always darting back and forth like Andy Kaufman, the guy who used to be on Saturday Night Live. And it's racist for black people to be required to have voter ID because they can't get on the internet and they don't know how to do stuff. I've actually seen people say this on recent interviews within the last couple of weeks. I couldn't believe this. And then the guy went to Harlem and he was asking blacks and everyone, young and old and in between, they all had IDs. They all knew where to get an identification because there are so many things that you need identification for. People use their identifications every day if they go out, every day. And so at the same time, since everyone uses ID every day, for these same people that are using their IDs to sit there and listen to these white liberals say, well, blacks, you just don't know how to deal with the internet, and so you also don't know how to get to the Department of Motor Vehicles in your state, and so therefore you should be required or allowed to vote with no identification. I mean, come on, give me a break. Yeah, you're right, Reefer Man 69. It is the most racist thing, but they use it to cause division, to cause destruction, to cause cheating. Ooh, that's right. And something else that I read about, and in fact, I talked about it on my talk show today. Lester Holt. He's a news anchor man for, I think it's ABC. I think it's ABC, one of the crooked networks. And he said that it's no longer about being fair and reporting the news. It's no longer being concerned about getting to the truth. It's more it's more of their mission now to push the mission, to push a narrative. Now, when I came up and first got into broadcasting, I mean, you could not. I mean, they preached so much about being objective. If you were just a news guy, a news reporter, they preached so much about being objective to the point where, oh, my God, if I'm not totally objective, you almost thought you'd get struck by lightning. I mean, that was drilled in. What, why, when, where, and how. Don't worry about any of the other stuff. Get to the truth, the facts, ma'am. But now the facts don't matter. And that's why you need to listen to independent folks like yourselves, through your own research. And like me, who is in the media, but I tell the truth. I blow away the myths and reveal the truth every day, in fact, Sunday through Friday, via the Ron Edwards American Experience. And you can check me out worldwide via Spreaker.com. And you'll go there and you can just punch on and you'll enjoy the show. We have fun. We tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We have a good time. And also on the weekends, you can hear the Ron Edwards American Experience on K-Star Radio, K-Star Talk Radio. You can go to their site, kstar.com. You can also go to, it's KELY 1230.com. That's a flagship station for the Nevada Talk Network. It's a string of radio stations out west. You can check me out on Saturdays. And you can go to my website and you can get the time for that and everything. And also, if you are a coffee drinker and you like health, your health as well, if you like good health, but you're a coffee drinker as well, and you want to drink a coffee that is non acidic, very smooth and delicious, check out um, a great coffee. It's called Constitutional Grounds. It was recently launched Independence Day weekend. It was approached about 5 months ago by Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters, and about the idea of formulating a coffee that reflects yours truly. What an honor! What an honor! And so it took them about 5 months to develop it, and then one day, finally, they got it together, and we designed the bags and everything. And they said, "Ron, you need to name it." And I'm very bad at naming stuff. I can write great columns, and things of that nature. But when it comes to the title, I always need an editor. I need help with the titles. So anyway, I couldn't think of a name. And the guy said, "Ask your wife." I said, "Yeah, that's right. She's the smart one." So we went to her, and a little while later, she comes back out, and she said, "Constitutional Grounds." And that's so fitting because I promote the Constitution a lot, and we should be running our country on constitutional grounds. But anyway, that's what it is. If you want to check it out, simply go to theronedwards.com, theronedwards.com, and you will see right there the display. You'll see the beautiful little bag and all that. It comes in Q cups as well, regular and decaf, and very, 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 you won't be affected by the acidic nature that plagues most coffees. And so it's a blessing to your health. And so it's really good stuff. So I urge you to go there and check it out. It's yummy. But back to the news and the subjects at hand. Um, David from the Bible, this is Jacqueline D. David from the Bible was a murderer. Yep. Yep, he did. But guess what? When Jesus walked the earth, guess who he spoke highly of? David. Because David not only because he repented or whatever, but he also sought to fulfill the purpose that God appointed for him. And he did. He was the greatest king in Israel's history. And I think it's David's throne that Jesus will be sitting on. So David, despite his murderous act, he turned things around. And that's what encourages me in my own life. We all have done some horrible things. But thanks to the grace of God, hey, it doesn't have to end on that bad note, does it? And we can overcome and do much greater things. And that's the beauty of it. And yep, glory be to God, Jacqueline. And that's the beauty of it. And that's one of the reasons why I believe that by the grace of God, if we repent for dropping the ball concerning our nation. See, God put us in this nation for a reason, for a purpose, not to sit around and hate the nation and while we're sitting on our Samsonite to fly away. Nope. He put us here because the United States, I even thought this as a child before I learned more details as an adult. I used to think that the United States was supposed to be a representative of heaven in the earth. I used to think that on my own. It's just like a thought that just came to me. Because I would hear about how people around the world viewed the nation and how people all over the world so loved America and they wanted to come here, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, they've got to be coming here for a reason beyond just wanting to make money. And then as you grow and you learn more about the founding fathers and the vision for the country, not only their vision, but of great men that came after them. And then you think, wow, this place was really meant to be a heavyweight in the history of mankind. And the reason why, and see, I believe that we can do it. I really believe we can do it. It's in you, Jacqueline. It's in you, Doug. It's in you, Diane, and many others. If Thomas Jefferson can found America, Jacqueline, you, and all the rest of you can refound America. It's not too late. It's not over. I know there are those who are saying it's all over. It's all over. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, Diane, you're right. That excuse will not work. Yep, evildoers are just meant to be defeated to me. They're on their side. We're on the opposite. We kick dragon and keep it moving. That's what God wants us to do. That's what He put us on the earth to do. We're the winners. As Ronald Reagan said, we win, and they lose. And so I charge you, my friends, to decide to win. Win for your children, win for your grandchildren, win for yourself. And I'm always reminded of the story, to back up what I'm saying, of the three gentlemen. Remember the story about one man was given 10 talents, another 5, and another 1. And the one that was given 10 talents, God showed up, boom, boom, boom. Hey, what did you do? Hey, guess what? I doubled mine. I really went to work and we did this, that, and the other. And God says, whoa, I am well pleased with you. And I think He gave him a lot more. Same story with the man who got 5. He says, look what I've done. I went to work and I doubled it. And I overcame all whatever odds, whatever. Overcame the enemy. Boom, boom, boom. Then there was the guy who had 1. He had the least amount of work to do. Just take care of 1. But he says, oh, he was like a lot of Christians today. Scarce, too scared, as they say in Texas. They were too scared. And, oh, I know that you're a heavy taskmaster, and I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want to blow it. Well, guess what? Because he didn't want to take the chance, then I guess God didn't take any more chances on him, because he shuttered him off to utter darkness. So don't you give up your chance. Don't give up your mission. Don't give up what God has given you to do, because He's given you a lot, because there's a lot in you, and we have a lot to do together as men and women of Christ and men and women of America. There's a lot to do. So we might as well get to work and do it, and not give in and not give up. And on that note, I'm going to bid you adieu until next time. I'm going to be back real soon. I'm going to start doing these things more often, because I actually enjoy them. But I didn't want to come back on here until I got rid of that green factor. You remember the last time I was on, it was like Green Man. I thought I was turning into the Green Lantern or something. But this time I don't think I'm green. I'm clear, I believe. But I thank you all for joining me. Spread the word if you like this. Give me a like and spread the word about what's going on here, and tell the folks about my talk show during the week. And together we can win. I'm Ron Edwards. And remember, God bless you, God bless America, and may America bless God. Bye now.